For me, people must understand the value in which the value that they are bringing to the market, and they must be deliberate about ensuring that that value is good and that value would sell itself.
Some have argued that the true power of a king is not in his ability to accumulate wealth for himself, but it's in the platform he creates to also empower his people to the maximum level. 2 weeks ago, when we started our conversation on talent, our intention was not to accumulate the knowledge for ourselves, but to create a platform that individuals who had been through the 3 stages of uncovering the talent, of sharpening the talent, and commercializing the talent will come on this program to, 1, validate the 12th part you wrote 2 weeks ago, which I hope you remember, and 2, maybe share some few nuggets that would help enhance that which you do. My name is Jesse Agyepong. You're welcome to Springboard, your virtual university, the foremost developmental program where the greatest minds in the world converge to have conversation on issues that are important for our tomorrow. This program is brought to you by the Springboard Virtual Foundation and is proudly sponsored by MTN, the Enterprise Group, and is also supported by the Ghana Growth Program, which is an initiative of the MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Virtual Foundation. Today we've got someone special in the studio. I want to say 2 special people. One voice that you already know, and again, I am super excited to have taken the chair. And I'm very happy that you voted for me to stay on this program.
You're campaigning again.
I'm campaigning again.
I'm taking the campaign too.
My first guest is an observer guest for this week. The Reverend Alberto Kran is a fantastic developmental coach. The leadership coach is a fantastic spiritual guide. Please, wherever you are, celebrate him for the good job that he does for many young people across the country. Rev, you're welcome again.
It's a blessing. Thanks.
The second person is someone who is described by many as a creative entrepreneur. And he's someone who's doing magic. If you cast your mind back to Wogbejeke, which is a story of Ghana from long time back to now, that's a powerful story. And again, if you follow the Mansa Musa progress, the voice that amplifies Mansa Musa across Africa, his name is Moomen from the House of Chiefs. Nobody has ever done that to you.
Actually, no one.
Actually,
yes.
Welcome to the
yes,
show.
Thank you very much, Reverend. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
You know, typically when people go back into studios, they had not been there for a long time. They say, what do you think about our studio?
Oh, well, I can see the progress. I can see the decor. I mentioned that when I first came here, we're coming through this side, but I see that, there's some good progress. And it shows that, the Springboard platform has really reinvented itself. At a time where the industry of, in quotes, motivational, industry has, almost dead, I think that Springboard has really maintained a level that continues to be relevant and impactful to both older and younger generations. So kudos to Reverend Okran. I mean, he's a man who knows what he's about. So yes, and of course, Anti-Comfort. and all the team here, yes.
Thank you very much. And we don't take this for granted. We're grateful that you're here. But Ref, before I come to him, I just want to come to you. So we go back to 2 weeks ago, just to remind people why we're here.
Actually 3.
3 weeks ago, right? Yes, we're going through a 12-part series, a 12-part plan on how to uncover your talent. We have touched on the need for volunteerism, 1. Number 2, we touched on the essence of mentorship. 3, we touched on the essence of being patient to endure the process. 4, we touched on the need to develop related gifts. Then 5, we touched on the relentless pursuit of excellence. 6, we also indicated that you have to invest time and money, and we spoke about the 10,000 hour principle. Then we also spoke about the essence of order and structure, number 7. Number 8, we spoke about the need for discipline and routine. 9, we spoke about integrity and commitment. 10, we spoke about the need to leverage one's talent into multiple streams. 11, we spoke about the need for continuous improvement. And 12, we spoke about partnerships and human relations. Do you want to tease anything out before I jump to our guest?
I guess for me, what I would love to hear from Chief Moomen, and I think I speak for many of our viewers and listeners, is that we've, over the past 3 weeks, shared lessons on how to discover it, how to develop it, and then how to deploy it into a profitable venture. Are these thoughts real? From the practitioner's point of view, can we learn how he discovered his? And can that young person watching from 7,000 or 700 kilometers away feel that, listen, if Chief Moomen has done it, I can do it? If we can leave the studio today with somebody feeling inspired that the little traits of what they've discovered can be moved to and they become a UNESCO project, in quotes, then our purpose today would have been accomplished. And I think we've chosen the best person to help us do this today.
Chief,
Yes.
let's take you off from
Yes.
something very basic.
Yeah.
Was volunteerism essential for you on this journey?
I mean, so when I think back at my journey, deliberately, I didn't think of it as the things that I've done as volunteerism. It was an interest and a service, and I made myself available for opportunities because these opportunities, interested me. And sometimes volunteerism may not even necessarily be within a structured organization that you go and say, okay, I'm volunteering. It's about what service you're rendering to your community, right? So, for example, we used to go to Open Air Theatre on Radio Universe, which was an opportunity for young writers to come and share their works. In itself was a sense of volunteerism because it was programming and the program needed content and the content was going to be delivered by young writers, and we used to just avail ourselves whenever they called us to come and present our works, and those were important nurturing opportunities, right? I remember when I was in school, in my first year in the university, students, literature, sometimes literature can be very difficult, the concepts can be very difficult, and I had an easy grasp of literature, and I decided to, put together a pamphlet that simplified and explained, what those concepts in literature was for my colleagues, and it was a bestseller actually, even after we had left level 100, right? And I think back at that and realized that it was in itself a way of developing myself. I went forward to do a whole newspaper called the Legon Outlook, put together the team, raise the funding. I mean, it wasn't to make money. I just felt that there was a need to have a student publication on campus, right? I mean, I see it as a form of volunteerism because what I was doing was of service to the community without necessarily getting anything back. But in so doing, I built my skills, my talent, my abilities in wonderful ways. And I have several examples going back all the way into secondary school, all the way into JSS. Into JSS, I wanted to become school prefect. I wasn't made a school prefect. I became by force.
Did you cry?
No. I said my shorts was too long. was that offensive? Oh, no. Okay, so I became a by force dining hall professor. I used to go to they had set up a new canteen. I just used to go and work with the people. I used to go and sometimes wash bowls and, joke with the ladies who were serving the food. And I look back at all of those, I was like, wow, what I do today, my drive, my entrepreneurship, my ability to think on my feet, to put projects together, all boils down to all of those experiences that I have built.
Take me 5-10 years before that period.
Yes.
Before you discovered it, what was it?
Well, actually, I will take you back to when I actually discovered the love for art. And, I always say talent is interest. Things that interest you. That's one of the ways that you can discover your talent, right? I saw a performance of the American poet Maya Angelou. She had come for Panafest. She was in Ghana, around the independence period, and she used to come back. So Panafest was very, very, very big, in the 90s. And I remember I was about 10 years old.
That was Mohammed bin Abdullah's.
Yes. Yeah. So Professor Sutherland, Mohammed bin Abdullah, all of them, Akono Dake, they were all very instrumental in Panafest. Akono Dake and Professor Sutherland are still very much into it, right? So 10 years old, watching my mom's black and white television, and this larger-than-life personality comes and does one of her famous poems at the National Theatre. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies, but still like dust I rise. I didn't understand. I don't think I understood what she was saying, but I was awed and, by her aura, her delivery. And so I traced my interest to literature at that very early age. Wow. But I also understand that I grew up in a family where talk and my mom is a storyteller. When I think back at it now, so every dawn after prayers, she used to tell us stories, she preach to us, she sing to us. So I grew up with melody, I grew up with stories and also seeing my Angelo. So all of that kind of like crystallized in me an interest in the art of storytelling. That was for me my nurturing and if it were beginnings to what I'm doing today.
Was it a silver bullet for you, or there were other options available and yet this stood out for you?
If you ask my colleagues back in secondary school, back in the university, whether Chief Moomen was going to be an artist, nobody even knew me as an artist that much. Because I was so much into student politics. I was senior school prefect in Tiamede Secondary School. I was regional SRC president, of all the secondary schools in the Ashanti region. When I came to the University of Ghana Debate Society, SRC. So I was that kind of person that naturally you think my trajectory is in politics. But one thing that I never did was to discard my talent. So even while I was at the university, I started writing actively, JSS, very actively in secondary school. I studied literature when I was in the university. I studied literature again and theater arts and all of that. So I never neglected that path of me. So I used to write. I used to go for open air theater. I used to go for open mic events. So whereas I was very busy with the politics, I still made time to nurture that craft. Not because I thought that this could be a career, not because I thought I was going to make money out of it. It was an interest that I didn't allow to, as it were, to die off, and that I kept nurturing. And I did a performance at an open mic event. KSM saw me sometime in 2009. He said, "Hey, I love that. Come and do it on my show." So I went on his show, did a performance, something about Ghana, our history and our heritage. I was like, put your number out there. That's what KSM used to do when he puts a talent, put your number out there. And that's people started calling me, hey, how much are you going to charge? I'm like, charge? I would do this for free. Then I started taking this that I was one of the people called you. Yeah, one of the earliest, right? I went to you very early on. I went to Charles very early on. And it's interesting. So I started doing poetry performances, and then that's how the career began. So after school, it was just a path that opened and I took. And once I went on that path, I was like, okay, let me put the politics aside and everything else, because then it was a focus. Later on, I would volunteer with KSM. KSM was the same person who gave me my first break in theater, because the poem that I did was about history and heritage. It was like, he had a project to do something around the 1948 riots, and he just thought I could do it. So he called me, I was like, yeah, I'm also into theater. I can put together a performance. And I did a small performance on a small aspect of Ghanaian history in 2012. It went so well. I was like, why don't I expand this into the whole of Ghanaian history? So that's how Heritage Theatre Series was born. And I started pitching for 3 years and see how the dots connect, right? So when I started commercial performances in Code, Unilever was one of the first organizations I used to work for through Charterhouse. So I had performed for them, over the time, over the years. And so I had built familiarity, built contacts. So I started pitching the Heritage Theatre Series project to them. And sometime in 2014, their marketing manager then, Clarence, was like, I have this brilliant idea. I want to tell the Ghanaian story, through theater and everything. So, okay, give me a proposal. I gave him a proposal and they decided to fund it. So 2015, that's how we gave birth to our first theater production, Heritage Theatre Series, work by Jeke, sponsored by Keysop, because I was doing poetry for them, and because that poetry got me onto KSM show, and that KSM show is what got me onto the theatre performance. And so you can see how things just linked. And so once I got onto that,
for the expertise in sewing as well. It's almost like sewing.
So once I got onto that path, I've never looked back since.
So, Reva, I'd come to you to pick your view on his talent on ethnic. But before that, would you say that at the core, the ethos of this your talent is your power of communication?
Yes, because what I do is communication. Yes. So I'm a storyteller. So if you do not have that foundation, then because it's quality and consistency that will get you that far. And as the story develops, you even get to understand how it has been the most important currency of my life. And everything I have done, I can trace back to Chief Moomen as a poet standing on stage and performing.
Ref.
So here we are looking at leveraging. And for me, Chief, you say it so simply. You make it almost sound like it happened all on one stage. On one stage, sometimes you get accused of the story is so beautiful that you think you can go out there and do it overnight. But I'm sure that behind all this were moments of also doubt, also fear. Because in taking one thing, you deny yourself of something.
Something.
So maybe help us to understand those moments when, in fact, you talked about pitching for 3 years. Maybe let's just stay for that one, because somebody is pitching and not getting and wondering whether I did anything wrong. Tell us how you felt when you kept pitching and no one was listening. Did you feel that you were on the wrong track?
So, I think that one of the things that I have been lucky with is, a safe space. So all the time as I was pitching, I was volunteering with KSM. And I used to discuss my ideas in the office. Auntie Nima, back then, KSM's sister, celebrated actress and writer, was in the office. And so every time I kept talking about my vision, they kept validating it. They were like, yeah, this is good. Look, I said, I want to do Ghanaian history. I want to really have this huge cast on stage. I want to do these epics and all of that. So because they kept reinforcing and, kind of like validating that idea, that vision, at no point was I discouraged. Obviously, it was tough. But remember at this time in my life, so this is around 2012 to 2015, I had a lot of projects I was working on because I was doing poetry here, corporate organizations, presidential events, social events. So there was, a trajectory that was already unfolding. And then I saw this vision of what I wanted to do. So because I had the benefit of a safe space, it didn't allow me to doubt. And also, naturally, I'm a very, and that could be the folly of entrepreneurship, right? I'm a very ambitious and optimistic person. I know that if I set my sight on something, I can do it. So because of just that stubborn optimism, I never had room for doubt.
I'm glad I didn't see it.
We always push for young people who are walking this journey to invest two key things. Time and money. And sometimes it's difficult to make that decision, especially when you have doubts about the commercial viability of your talent. Talk to me about time and your own investment.
So I've been doing this as a creative entrepreneur for 20 years, since 2005. So this is actually 2025, right? So those 20 years. I've been doing poetry performances for the good part of 18, 17 years. I've been doing theater for 13 years now, right? And I'm still not where I am or where I intend to be. So I am still in the moment, in the point of transformation. It is very important to have a vision of where you're going and understand what you're trying to do. Once you have that vision of where you're going and understand what you are doing, let that be like your North Star. In the fable of Jesus Christ, the stars that was directing, let that be your star, right? And then go through the process. And I realized this early on. Look, nobody owes you a favor in life. Nobody owes you their time. Nobody owes you their attention. Nobody owes you their resources. The vision bearer owns the greatest responsibility for the vision. So once I went through this, and I went through it after doing work by JK for so many years, until now, and I say this confidently, that none of my project has made money. There's no single theater production that I have done in this country that I can say I have broken even or made profit. None of them. But because I understand what this would be, I understand that this is the process. If I was interested in maybe starting a small backyard poetry farm and I start with a few chicks, that's fine. But because I know I want to do industrial farming, I know there's a skill at which I have to start. So when I did my first month's work, which was so big, people were like, why don't you start small at the, drama studio? So like, no, that's not the vision. The vision is to get on Broadway. The vision is to get on West End. That's how big I want to go. So for me, that is my beginnings. That work by JK, if you like Heritage, Heroes Day into work by JK was my beginnings, right? So starting early is so important because I started early. Anything that is worthwhile to build will probably take a decade plus. So because I started early, I have the benefit of hindsight. And from a very long time, I told myself that by the time I turned 40, I should have built something substantial. I am 37. I'm 3 years away from being 40. I think that if I get to 40 and I don't build something substantial, that's when I'll start feeling anxious and, that I'll have anxiety. But because I give myself the long timeline, because I made myself understand that no one owes me a favor or their time or their attention, those things armed me. So if I'm pursuing the vision, whether I'm pitching to investors in Ghana, in the US, anywhere in the world, I am relentless at it. If I go and the person can't make it, I don't complain, I don't grudge. Okay, when can you make it? If it doesn't happen, on to the next. So I have never wasted time.
What constitutes substantial for you?
Well, I mean, as I said, my vision is to build $1 billion business, right? Once I have my productions running globally, on Broadway, on West End, once I have a touring production, once the Mansa world is well established where we have content across theater, film, and other platforms, at that point, when I see that, okay, the vision is almost on autopilot and I can now rest and the things will work for me, at that point, I would have felt that we are approaching substantial.
Where do you find your mental strength from? Do you have military antecedents? A parent who was a head teacher? Is it your faith? Where do you find the mental? There's something about resilience and fortitude that is screaming through your.
Maybe it's my environment. I mean, my dad was one of the first people who left the Upper West region, to come and set up a business here. He was very successful early. Our family house was a gateway to many people in our community. So we grew up with uncles and aunties. Anyone who traveled from the north or from the Upper West would come and rest at our house, and we saw people who came and built businesses and became. So maybe part of that is because I'm my father's son, because he was, he was a great, industrialist and businessman who found success, very early. And he's very driven when he puts his mind at something, and we have the benefit of, further education. We have the benefit of exposure in addition to whatever we might have, inherited from him. So maybe that could be an important part of that vision, that resilience, that moving through life with more or less like a bulldozer attitude, pushing your way through regardless of the stumbling block. And I said it because I know that sometimes it can be very foolish, but there's a little bit of insanity that you need if you are going to build anything that will be completely transformational. There are different levels of success.
Last time I heard this with
Dr.
Daniel Macaulay.
Okay.
Says, second few. So I'm listening to you and saying, maybe he's right.
I mean, I can give you that level of insanity. As I sit here, I don't have any savings. I don't have any physical asset apart from my intellectual property, right? If something happens to me now, there probably has to be appeal for funds from family and friends. And I have never had any savings because I live from hand to mouth, from project to project. The money goes as fast as it comes because my vision is bigger than the resources that I have, right? And I do have a family, like I have a wife and I have a daughter, right? At some point you have to begin thinking security. You have to begin thinking what future are you building for them? So that's why for me, my benchmark is around 40. If I get in the next 3 years, if the first million hasn't come out, we're
Before we go to break, let me see you on this point.
Yes.
Tell us about that moment where you've stood in your room in a dark moment and you're wondering whether this is it. Maybe it's not going to be. When was that? And how did you go through it?
My lowest moment, and that was, because I went through life like on a highway. I didn't anticipate any bumps. I just moved from secondary school to the university, to my entrepreneurial journey after school. And then I had my challenge with Ghana at 60. So the last place I was expecting disappointment from was a government agency. So we did the big production, Ghana 60 for them. They were supposed to pay us some money. They didn't pay. It became a whole controversy. I used to go to the Flagstaff house for months and then I wrote about it and it became national news, right? That was the first time I had a reality check. You can't move through life with a certain level of naivety thinking that, things would always be laid out for you. But I think that in my greatest death, that is actually when I dreamed my greatest ambition. Because as at that time, it was about 100,000 CDs that they had to give me, which became national news and a controversy. So in the quiet of my room, and I remember this clearly, as I said, in my apartment, I was almost depressed actually, because I had a lot of young people behind me. I cast them for 150 and I had told them, and we had been struggling to do our productions. When this one came, I was like, this one is gonna at 50. All of you be paid. No challenges, no disappointment, blah, blah, blah. And then ended up becoming the biggest disappointment. So I was disappointed because I had disappointed my people. But in that moment, I said, because of a mere 100,000 Ghana cedis, look at how I'm suffering. Meanwhile, people are creating billions of dollars of value out of their creativity. I mean, I'm better than this. I'm worth more than this. And this is actually when I began the Mansa World project. I was like, I'm going to go back to the drawing board. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to study creative economy around the world. I'm going to study what others have done, and I'm going to replicate it. And that's actually when I dreamt my biggest ambition. And a couple of months later, I put it out there, about that I want to do my Mansa Musa production, which went viral and all of that. So I'm actually thankful.
I was going to say that.
Yeah. So when people ask me that, the Ghana sister, I say, oh, don't worry, Charlie. What I've gotten out of it is worth more than that. What that 100,000 would have done for me.
Is it allowed to clap?
Too good. So one night of hope and excitement, a young man kicks out of his room, driving so much courage, and then another night he's in his room, almost depressed. If I've picked nothing so far, there are three things that I've picked. The first is that no one owes you a favor. The second is that you owe yourself the greatest responsibility. The third is that no production has made me money, which means that when you start this, your talent drive, sometimes you won't make money. And the fourth I've picked is that don't move through life with naivety.
Add number 5. Habit of insanity.
You for Christ.
That's the biggest one. Yes.
A little.
Watching Springboard Virtual University. This program is brought to you by Springboard Virtual Foundation and is proudly sponsored by the big yellow sponsor MTN, and is also brought to you by the Enterprise Group. It's also supported by the Ghana Growth Program, which is an initiative of Massacre Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Virtual Foundation. My name is Jesse Agyepong. We'll be right back.
Good business means seeing the possibilities and maximizing opportunities. Making sure you have a responsive support system backs your business goals. A partner that gives you a stable platform with reliable connectivity and seamless solutions, and better understands the tools required to take you to the next level. With so many moving parts in running a business, we do our best to provide you with some stability, the only kind of stability you can find with MTN Business Broadband, the fastest and most reliable internet provider in Ghana, making sure you stay ahead and stay connected, because we understand what makes your business tick.
Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh or call or WhatsApp 0244 308 111.
MTN.
Whether it's 1924, 2024, or 2124, we've always known that you are driven by your sense of safety and well-being. It is what drives us to see you through from start to finish, from small to big. And in the last 100 years, as you have evolved, so have we also expanded to serve you in many ways. From cradle to grave, with expertise in insurance, life, pensions, properties, health, and for those beautiful memorable goodbyes. It's 2024, and in all our markets, our pedigree is recognized, our strength respected, our expertise valued, and our solutions sought by all who desire an advantage in life. Experience the time-tested and truly trusted 100 years legacy of Ghana's oldest insurer. Take charge of your future now. Insurance, life, pensions, property management, funeral services, health insurance. Enterprise, your advantage.
Learn something new every week and be inspired by innovations, impact, and success stories of individuals making strides in the agricultural, agribusiness, technical, and vocational skill sectors on Ghana Grows Ejuma with Arabakumson and Yabitha. Join us this and every Thursday on Facebook at 7 p.m. at Ghana Grows, also at Comfort Okran A and at Albert N.E. Okran. On Fridays at 4 p.m. on Joy 99.7 FM and on Sundays at 5:45 p.m. on TV3. Ghana Grows is an initiative of MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Virtual Foundation. If you are a young person and you want to be a part of our various interventions, call or WhatsApp Ghana Grows call center on 0308 255 775. Follow us on all our social media handles. Ghana Grows Ejuma. Hope Day.
If you're listening to us or you're watching us, I'm sure you're saying, wow, what a pace. And this interview has been super fantastic so far. You're listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM. You're also watching us on Joy News, or you're on social media watching us. Our guest is Chief Moomen, a creative entrepreneur and one of my favorite individuals on stage. I'm also joined in the studio by Reverend Albert Okran. And before the break, I was excited to note 5 things that were important to me, and I hope you've also made notes of what's important to you. Number 1 for me, like I said earlier, 1 is no one owes you a favor. 2, you owe yourself the greatest responsibility. 3, you won't always make money from what you do. 4, don't move through life with naivety. And 5, a little bit of craze.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to Rev now and say, Rev, what's your pick?
I know you think I'll talk about the little bit of crazy, but I'll talk about owing, and I think I owe a debt to our sponsors. So let me pick something from the Enterprise Group. When I come back, I'm going to come to you about the length of the runway. The length of the runway. So let me take a moment to answer our Enterprise Advantage tip. And it says, do I always have to pay for medical services under the Acacia Health Insurance and claim a refund later? Do I pay cash and claim a refund later? And the response is this: no, members are expected to use their cards at accredited service providers to avoid paying cash unless there is an emergency, in which case, of course, you go ahead, pay, and you get a refund. So with your card, you can get your service at accredited service providers. To find out more, the number to call the Enterprise Group on is 030-263-4777. Email info@enterprisegroup.io. info@enterprisegroup.io. Enterprise is your advantage. The Ghana Grows Call Center is a place to call or WhatsApp to find out more about opportunities for young people, especially young women, in the areas of agriculture, agribusiness, and ATVET. And so if you would like to find out what opportunities there are, career clinics, various entrepreneurial opportunities, call or WhatsApp the number 030-8255-775. Talking about opportunities, let's throw some light. Chief, one thing we do these days every time we go on air is to pick somebody doing something in the agriculture, agribusiness, and ATV sectors without their knowledge and mention their business on air for people to patronize it, just to make them happy. Make people happy, shouldn't you?
Of course.
Yeah. We don't even tell them you are dead, or you hear people calling you plenty. You're like, what happened? They say, oh, Springboard, they are mentioning you. So Dosa Fresh Enterprise is one of our Young Innovators Award winners. Dosa Fresh is transforming Ghana's fruit and vegetable industry from tackling post-harvest losses to empowering farmers and creating sustainable livelihoods. So they champion natural fruit products and promote healthy living and create opportunities for the youth. So if these are your interests, you want to find freshly squeezed juice with no additives and no color and no preservatives, all natural and organic. The number to call or WhatsApp 024-622-0554 or 055-879-5110. You will find the numbers on your screen if you're watching us on television. So back to Chief. Shoot. The length of the runways. You know, some have it short helicopter. They don't even need runway.
Yeah.
Take off and they are gone. Yeah. Some to Boeing 737. Yeah. They taxi to some 240 kilometers and they take off. Yeah. Yours seems to be the Boeing 737 type. you said you're giving us yourself even 3 more years before you will see light, and you are patiently waiting.
Yes.
The number is 1 billion.
Yeah. That's the magic number. That's why I'm keeping my friendship. When he started talking, I said, you know what? Let me make sure I call him every month. I'm checking on you. I won't even ask about. I'm just checking on you. How are you? How is the family? How is work? Just check on you, because once I keep doing that for 3 years, when the money comes, he will remember me.
You know, my big brothers in the group. I know $100,000 because I've been pestering them with the vision. I said, when we make it, we'll slap everyone with 100K.
Keep me that. So, Chief, how do you find the fortitude?
Yeah.
I mean, in agriculture, when you do teak plantation, you know you need to wait some 20 years, 25 years, or probably even with improved variety, some 15 years before you harvest. In between, is there anything like mixed cropping where you plant something small to hold the fort?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and it's important that we nuance the conversation for people to understand that you have to survive. For me, that survival has been my career as a performance poet. That has been my most stable stream of income that at least affords me, my bread and butter. And poetry has been good to me. I have to be very frank. I've had the opportunity to perform on the highest stage. I told you when I started performing, it was about 150 Ghana cedis. When I went on Ghana Music Awards, I started charging 600 cedis. Went to 1,000, went to 5,000, went to 10,000. Now I do about, in Ghana, maybe between 15 to 20,000. My rate is 20,000. But internationally, I can command as much as $10,000 for a performance. And just next week, I'm leaving to the US for a big performance at the Kennedy Center. So poetry has been that most consistent stream of income. I'm sure if I didn't have that and I was hungry, the vision would have been frustrated. Mm-hmm. Another privilege I identify is that, and I consider it as a privilege because I'm not the breadwinner for my family in terms of my parent, right? If the reality of life was such that maybe I was the eldest and I had to really fend for my parents, then I had to do what was pragmatic, because what I'm doing is ideal. If you like to spend time and effort in building a vision and wait for it to grow. So because of that, stable, and the poetry business is like that, it's seasonal. In a season you can get some good business and then it can go dry for a long time, but at least it has helped to keep body and soul together. At least I can afford my batakali and my hat and fuel my car and come around here as well. And then obviously the privilege of not having any immediate, responsibility. Just until recently, my daughter is 1 year old, and even with that, I was telling my wife that I don't mind her going to a Saito. I want a public school, right? Now they don't want to go to these big international schools, but let's see. I'm sure I'll be able to afford it soon enough. So those things have been very important for me, at least to be able to focus on that vision for it to develop long term.
2 weeks ago when we started the journey, we kept on encouraging young people to learn how to product their solutions as a way of commercializing it. Yeah. Now I hear you talk about poetry. Yeah. Build upon that for us. How many product streams or how many product lines do you have?
So my primary career has been as a performance poet. And the thing about the talent industry is that talent sells itself. So, I've never put out a post or advertised myself, but the performance I do are the biggest advertisement. So you see me on one stage and you bring me to another stage. And actually that has been my biggest currency, not just money that comes into my pocket, but influence that I have leveraged, right? And if you even think about this, there's several examples, but let me just take this big UNESCO connection, for example. UNESCO saw me years ago perform at a big event in Dubai. That was during the Expo, event with some of the royal family of Dubai, some heads of state and all of that. And I met the Assistant Director General and we started talking. They would invite me to Paris to do a performance and give a presentation on African history and heritage. And then I leveraged that to pitch my bigger vision. And of course, it took 4 years before we were able to enter this partnership. But just gives you an example of how poetry was a currency that got me onto a stage that gave me visibility. So it's very important that, capital is probably the last stage of money investment that you get to build your dreams. And I know a lot of people say, how do I make it? I don't have money. And your biggest currency is the value, your value proposition. What is the value you are bringing to the market? For me, the value was my poetry, my ability to captivate audiences by standing on stage and telling a story. If you are into fashion, what is the value? It will be what you saw, the quality of what you saw. And someone wears it and says, I remember my kaftanga when I started wearing him early on. you're still starting the business. I'll go on stage, all of these events that I go, people are like, I like this guy, I like this, what you're wearing. Who did you do it for? I'm Stallion, and I pass on his number. Today, he's opened a shop, he's big, he has about 20 employees and all of that. So for me, people must understand the value in which the value that they are bringing to the market, and they must be deliberate about ensuring that that value is good and that value would sell itself. Because when you are starting, that's the only thing that can get you noticed. And once you get noticed, you can then leverage that and move from platform to platform.
Talking about notice, and last week we had a conversation around defining who you're selling to.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that you're saying that you must be noticed.
Yeah.
Clearly by a customer.
Yeah.
But in you shaping your customer, you speak about global, national.
Yeah.
Situate your customers for us. Who are they? How do you identify them?
Yeah.
How do you segment them? What do you sell to who, when, and how? Okay. So that we are clear in our minds how the young people watching the program should package their product for a particular cohort of customers.
Some of it is organic, some of it is deliberate, So my career as a performance poet was really organic because I didn't control the spaces that I went to, but I controlled the content that I put on those spaces. And because I was moving on a lot of corporate platforms, I was working with agencies, so they would see me, and sometimes the client would recommend. So I've performed for almost all the major corporate institutions, from banks to, telecoms, to mention them, right? So in terms of that, the product is, because once people need a certain product, and if that product is good enough, they will control the spaces that it goes to. And from one stage, you realize that you keep going on bigger and bigger stages because really it has a ripple effect, So in my career, that is the pathway. So you don't necessarily control the space, because I hardly ever go to a corporate institution and say, look, this is my portfolio, this is what I do. Because in my industry, it's at the panel etono. It's your quality that will sell you. And if that, so when young people come to me that, I want to get onto the media, I want to do poetry, start with your comfort zone, right? If I hadn't gone on open air theater, Radio Universe, if I hadn't gone to Hella Casa, if I hadn't done those free open mic events, I would never have been noticed. So visibility is important. And sometimes visibility is just your family and friends. It's your church, it's your community, right? If you are maybe producing some agribusiness, maybe some plantain chips or things, start by selling it, giving it even to your church or your family. Visibility is so important. I can't underestimate that importance. And I always feel that you can always find a comfort zone to test out your ideas, to bring visibility to what you are doing. So I tell people that just look within your community. Don't start by thinking that if I start by doing spoken word, I have to suddenly be on TV3, I have to suddenly be on GTV. Let them come and call you. But the only way they'll call you is when they see value. UNESCO came to me. Actually, I was explaining to someone who came to me that, they also want to do a similar partnership with UNESCO. And I said, I didn't go to UNESCO. UNESCO saw me.
I didn't even know how to go to UNESCO.
I didn't even know how to go to UNESCO. I tell you, if I had started with my vision and said, look, I'm going to pay, trust me, I would have been lost in the bureaucracy.
Right.
But at the very highest level, they saw my quality and invited me. And then I was smart enough to see that, okay, this is a partnership that I should pursue because it will be of advantage to the project that I'm doing. And I pitched it and the grounds were already softened. So I think that find visibility, but find it within your comfort zone, within your immediate family and friends, and allow that to grow what you're doing.
I'm hearing you say that a relentless pursuit of excellence, which is one of the things that we spoke about the last time, is what would bring new value, new customers all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, if your product is not of quality, then it's as good as dead from the very beginning, right? You will never grow, and the business will not get visibility. So excellence is very important, and the work that we do, practice is perfect. I mean, right now, on the top of my feet, if I get a brief today, I'm a master at my craft that I can write a poem and go and perform it, right? I'm tired of writing because I write for a living, but I've developed that quality, that persistence, and I also realized that it's actually a product of interest and lifelong learning, because what I do has to do with history and heritage. So at the same time I had discovered my talent, I was also very much interested in history and heritage. When I was a child, I used to spend a lot of time reading encyclopedia and history books, sometimes to the detriment of my own academic work, right? And all of that fertilized my mind, because as a writer, you need to fertilize that mind at a very early age so that you can quickly draw from information. So because I had availed myself to that natural opportunity, because I had fed my mind with all of this information, when I started writing, I knew where to look. So sometimes even knowing where to look is very important. Other than that, because the universe is large, right? You'll be groping in the dark, and so your formative years are so important, and it's not just for young people; it's also for parents. How much exposure are we giving to our children? How much interaction are we giving to our children in reading, in stories, and opening their minds in practice? I tell young people when they invite me, especially to the university, that don't go through the university without doing anything, because sometimes you don't know what your talent is or your ability is or where opportunity comes from unless you try something. So at least volunteer for your church group, do student politics, be part of the debate, do something in addition to your academics. So by doing so, you get to find out things and opportunities that you wouldn't have expected, because opportunity will not come, the doors will not come and open themselves for you. You will not sit at your corner and the door come and open for you. It's only by exploring that you get to find your own pathway.
Talking about that, in the last time we had our teenpreneurship conference, just based on what you said about the tunnel vision approach to education, the last time during our teenpreneurship conference, we had a little challenge with a parent who is so desirous of the child going into technology. This child says, listen, as for school, we've learned this tech, but this opportunity to do theater as the choice at the teenpreneurship conference is a chance of a lifetime. Right. And she wanted to do dance and theater. And the parents came and said, but you should have chosen AI and IT. It was a bit of a friction. Yeah. But you are saying that don't go through the whole of your education with a tunnel vision approach. Try other things. It's a
nuanced conversation, because children need direction. Some people are lucky to find their path very early on in life. And as a parent, you can see, okay, my child is good at this. And when you identify that, I think it's your responsibility as a parent to try and push that, that child to develop more in that field. I understand that there are traditional jobs, that parents would want their children to go to their courses that they want to study and all of that. And I understand the need for parents to try and protect the future of their children, right? But I think it's a balanced approach. Do not kill the vision of your child, even if you want to steer them in a particular direction. Because as I explained in my own journey, even though I was involved in politics and debates and all of that, I still found time to nurture my talent, because you don't know what the door might be for you. And I actually even think that creativity, once it's nurtured, applies to every field. Whether you're a scientist, there's a creative approach to the way you work on your labs and whatever. If you're a politician and crafting policy, there's a creative approach to it. So I think that some of these talents are transferable. So the most important thing is for the child to at least have a well-rounded education beyond the traditional things that they are learning, because at the end of the day, not everyone who learns something ends up doing what he or she has learned. Other opportunities, kind of like opens up for them. So it's very nuanced, it's very balanced, but make sure that you are not outrightly killing the passion of your child. Sometimes it may be their saving grace. The person might do banking and just realize I just can't. And if they don't have anything to fall on, then it becomes dangerous. Yeah. But I also understand that parents must, guide their child, because sometimes as young people we can be very flippant, we can be easily influenced because everyone is doing something crazy. Yeah, you want to follow the trend, right? So I think that's why it is parenting. If it were, just a direct pathway, it would be that easy. So parenting is such that you have to really ensure that while you are directing your path towards a particular path, you are also allowing them to develop their skills so that they are well-rounded. If they have to fall on it, they are able to fall on it.
You owe us a bit to give us a couple of minutes of insight into Chief Moomen, into the glory of Paris. 60 people. Yes. Charlie, take a minute to tell us how beautiful it felt.
Do you have the time?
You can't sign off telling us that one. You was talking about the depths, the struggle, but tell us of the glory. Tell us about Paris.
We did two things, right? So a year and a half ago, we launched the entire Mansa World project in Paris. We took a team of 60. I believe the biggest ever, kind of like ensemble out of Ghana or even Africa, on the global stage. And even at the UNESCO, they were telling me that a lot of the programs they host, they can't remember a time that they had that much number. But behind the beauty and the glory was actually the story of struggle. We needed about $200,000 to make that trip happen. And we're very strategic from the very beginning, which is another very important level. I never asked UNESCO for money. I was like, look, we're trying to get a partnership. This is a product that we have developed. I've sent you the synopsis. I've sent you the reviews. Let me bring that product so that you yourself will see it. So just give us the platform, right? And it was like, okay, yeah, we like that. We'll give you that platform. And so now we have to find the money. On the night we were leaving, we had only raised $30,000.
Wow.
As to how we were going to survive, we didn't know. But it was so important. That opportunity was such. I told my team that even if we have to go and hang on the ties of the plane to get there, we will get there. And and God will make a way where there seems to be no way. The travel agent that was introduced to us by, I went to GEPA to support us. They said they were going to give us like about 20 tickets. I said, look, we don't even want money. Just book the ticket for us. So they connected us to their travel agent, Comfort. And she was just so inspired by what we're doing. The cost of the tickets when we eventually came was about $90,000. She booked the whole ticket. We went and came back, and we paid her over a period of almost 7 to 8 months. That was God sent. Without her, I don't know how I would have made the trip. There was a point in time that the hotel that we were sleeping in, because we were paying on a daily basis. While I'm in Paris, I'll make calls. Can I get our patrons, our partners? They will be gathering the money.
Oh.
One day we were supposed to get about $15,000. That money didn't come. The hotel said they were going to evict us that day. At that point, I had exhausted all my options. And a friend who had heard that we were doing the show, visited us in Paris. And she just came to the hotel and, she made the issue like that. She said, oh, I have some $10,000. I can give it to you on loan. Wow, that was God sent. Right. So, Paris but it was a test of grit. And I'm happy that happened. Obviously we did the show. It was so fantastic. They loved it. And actually that's what, gave momentum to the partnership, because people, the told me that, look, as a world body, they enter into partnership with other world bodies, big recognized companies. So people ask about this Bamboo Chief Moomen that letters are good. Even the embassy was not willing to do 60 tickets. We did 60 visas. We had to postpone it 3 times. They had to get ministers in Paris. Letters came all over from UNESCO. So the amount of people who actually wrote letters for this to happen. And then we were afraid, would 60 people return? You're taking 60 people. If one runs away, you have dented your image. And my patrons were even telling me, are you sure that all your people will return? Some of them even felt that some of them will run away. So at the back of our mind while we were in Paris was the anxiety that every single one of them would return. And every single one came. Immediately they came, we took a scan of all their passports and we emailed it to the French embassy and said 60 people went.
You're in trouble.
If one person had run away, all the vote of confidence, all the things that people had done for us, even the officials at UNESCO who had stuck their head on the line to say that, let's bring these guys, it would have been a disgrace to all of them. And for me, I'm so grateful that we achieved that important feat.
Last week, we made a point here that a brand is a promise fulfilled.
Yeah.
And so when Chief goes out there to promise and he delivers, it's a brand that has been fulfilled.
Yeah.
And it's not just a brand being fulfilled globally. When he came back, he went to the embassy and 60 went and 60.
And since then, we've done like 5 more trips, and this year we have a lot more. And the whole project is to be able to build and go on tour. So if we can't go on tour, the business fails from the very beginning. So it was very risky. At a point in time, we're like, should we just go with about 10 people? Let's minimize the risk. I'm like, look, this product, we have to go with even 80, 100 at a point. Let's push the risk, but and have to tease out that important value. The team that I started working with on my first theater production in 2012 are the same team that I'm working with. The cast and crew, and a lot of them have gone way back. So it has taken us time to build. We have traveled together. So there's a family, there's a bond, and so we had to capitalize on all of that. But we also had to sell them the bigger vision of what the Mansa world would become. And they had to see it for themselves to believe. So all of that helped us, the way we built the team over the time. And for me, our greatest asset now is the team. We have about 200 cast and crew on standby that we can call to do various things. That is our biggest asset. Sometimes we do shows without money. Because we say, guys, we're pitching this product. It is important. Visibility is important because one thing leads on to another. And that's also another whole conversation. Building the team, managing the team, and getting them aligned on a particular vision has been very, 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 very quite an insightful process for me.
Rev, I'll come to you for your last words and any question you have, and then we can wrap.
I think I just would like to commend Chief Moomen. if you talk about a promise kept, when we decided to unpack, and Chief, I have this presentation that I did from 15 years ago.
Wow.
This presentation was on talent.
Okay.
And last 4 weeks or so, somebody came on the show and said he listened to this presentation and left his job as the CEO of an oil and gas company to pursue his talent. And eventually became a trainer in soft skills. And in this presentation, after presenting on the power of the talent, I showcased 20 Ghanaians whose talent I admire. And number 20 is a young man. This picture I'm showing you right there.
Lovely.
15 years ago, this is how you look like. So when we decided to select a number of them, you were the first that we picked to come and have this conversation. And I think you've helped us to appreciate the journey. The lessons are so many. Yeah. And I don't think we even qualify to distill them enough for our listeners and our viewers. But I'm certain about one thing, that anyone who sat through this hour will find the strength, the resilience, and the faith and courage to pursue their vision. So let me say thank you to you on their behalf. I've enjoyed this tremendously.
Thank you.
Say what to you?
Reverend, from where I sit, one talent with multiple streams is something you've been pushing for a long time. So shut me down if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
A storyteller who's powering poetry, a storyteller who's powering plays, would a storyteller turn to films at some point?
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea of the Mansa world. After studying the global entertainment space, I realized that intellectual property has value when it has iterations. So if you saw our theater production, you loved it, you see you download our music album. If we have a film, you watch it. It will have merchandise, you buy it. So we are creating a world of multiple content, across multiple stories for the global market based on Africa and Black diaspora history and heritage. So that's the whole idea of the Mansa world. It's almost like a Disney world. So we're trying to build that out of Africa, and that's why it's taking us time. I mean, in 3 years' time, let's come and talk about this. By that time, I think we'll be a bit more confident about where we are.
Entrepreneur Chief Moomen, join us right here on Springboard Virtual University. And again, I was joined by Reverend Albert Okran. We started this conversation to deliver a promise that we had made 3 weeks ago. The promise was to ensure that those who have accumulated wealth and knowledge and experience will share that with you in validating the 12th part that we started with 3 weeks ago. And I'm happy to say that Chief has more than delivered. And if you're just joining us, I'll just run you through some of the important points that he had made. And if you follow our social media handles also, you'll see the points clearly stated there. Number one, no one owes you a favor. Number two, you owe yourself the greatest responsibility. Number three, no production has made him money. It means that the job you're about to start, and as you commercialize yourself, you may not make money all the time. 4, don't move through life with naivety. 5, little bit of crazy sometimes is what you need to break that door and to get through the opportunity. And then 6, he made a point about value proposition, which stems from how to package your products and move it out there. Then 7, he says, do something in addition to your academics. 8, find time to nurture your talent. 9, visibility is very, very important. Don't forget that. And 10, team can be family. And if you treat your team right, there's no telling where you cannot go or where you can go.
Listen, before you sign off, talking about family,
yes,
I think I want to give Chief a minute to celebrate the unseen people who make his life happen.
Well, I mean, starting with my parents. Starting with my parents, you can't thank them enough, Without them, we couldn't be here and couldn't be doing what we've done. My sister Shamima, she's been such a pillar, in my life. Yeah. Shamima Muslim is actually my, a lot of my failed entrepreneurial ventures. I wouldn't call them failed, but she had to bankroll them in the past, and she's more even anxious about my success than I myself, and of course my wife Munira and my daughter Maliri. Without them, I mean, you have to have an understanding partner. When you're on a path like this that is uncertain, you have to have a partner that is patient enough for the vision to grow with you. And so I'm very grateful to her support, and for my daughter who has just turned 1 year. She is still inexperienced, and my friends, without them, my production manager, my stage manager, as IS master, without them, I mean, you see me at the top, but the real operations are handled by this, and that's also the importance of having competent people. It's an amazing team. So to the entire cast and crew of the Mansa world, without whom we couldn't be doing what we are doing, and we say that it's the team that builds the dream, and it's the dream that will build the team. And I didn't make money from production, but I've made from poetry. Let's something positive in there. Chifu hasn't made money from productions. Yeah. And of course, all of you guys for your constant support, the platforms that you have given us. Home support is so important to what we are doing. And for me, I have a clear vision of what I want to achieve and what impact I want to make. And God willing, I think that, and I say this with all humility, that the Mansa world will possibly be the biggest cultural and entertainment franchise out of Africa in the years to come.
Amen 10 times.
Thank you so much. This is Springboard, your virtual university where the finest individuals and the finest minds across the world will always converge to share views on that which is important to us. The program was brought to you by Springboard Virtual Foundation and was sponsored by MTN, the Enterprise Group, and supported by the Ghana Growth Program, which is an initiative of the MasterCard Foundation in partnership with the Springboard Virtual Foundation. Special thanks to our media partners, the Multimedia Group and Graphic Communications Group. And if you join us this week, clearly you join us next week. My name is Jesse Agyepong, and I thank you very much.